Welcome to Winning Classroom Management, a web series devoted to restoring the joy of teaching by exploring 4 keys that can help any teacher, whether new or veteran, really be successful with classroom management. So this is episode 0. This is the introduction. This will give you the big picture for what we are looking at. My name is Aaron Daffer, and I'm an educator, an author, a coach, and a trainer. And I want to start us with a metaphor for why we need to worry about classroom management. Winning classroom management gives us a solid foundation. Picture this oak table that you see here. You can put a lot of weight on that table. Any learning that you want to have in the classroom needs to rest on a solid foundation. And this is talking about behavioral skills and social emotional regulation of students. If you do not have that solid foundation, any content that you try to get into as a teacher is going to be received in a haphazard way. It's going to be strong with some students and it's going to be dismissed by others. But there are 4 legs that hold this table up. And in the same way, there are 4 keys to winning classroom management. And we're going to look at each of these in different episodes of this web series. Belonging, relationships, engagement, and finally discipline. When you have all 4 of those and they are solid, learning can happen. If you don't have those, if you have this picture here of this table that's just kind of cobbled together with 2 legs and it looks like 2 sticks, what happens when we are missing one or possibly more of those 4 keys? Well, teachers end up just chasing students around, fussing at them to try to get them to sit down or to be quiet or to stop throwing things or to pay attention. Rigorous lessons can't be taught because the kids can't handle it. Behavioral concerns start to dictate what teachers can and cannot do, and there might be a fun idea or a fun activity, but then you as a teacher have to say, well, my kids can't handle that. They would go wild, they would go crazy, they don't have the discipline to focus on something, so I need to keep things simple for them. Ultimately, achievement drops because we're not intellectually pushing our students as far as we need to, and we increase burnout. We just don't have fun anymore. Teaching is not the joy that we thought it was going to be. Instead, it is a chore where we are paid to babysit kids all day, and that's not what teaching is. So how can we restore the joy of teaching? Well, we can do that by making a solid foundation of behavior management so we can get to the fun stuff, the actual teaching. So another way to think about this, if you're a sports fan, is coaches. Successful coaches, whether they be football or whether they be track, any type of sport, whether it's an individual sport or a team sport, they have 3 major things that they contribute to their team. Number 1, they come up with a game plan. So they don't just show up to a game and hope they win. They spend a lot of time analyzing their strengths and weaknesses of their team, analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of the opponent, and figuring out how to leverage the 2 so that their strengths will exploit the weaknesses of the opponent. So there's a lot of planning that goes in place. Once you have your planning, coaches run practices. You have to practice the skills with the players again and again and again so they can execute the plays and they become muscle memory rather than requiring a whole lot of thinking in the middle of a game. You want the students to be able to act correctly in the moment, just like you want your football players to be able to execute the play from memory. And then finally, the plan never survives first contact with the opponent, so you need to be able to adjust. So maybe the opposing team has taken away one of your strengths, so how can you change your game plan so that you are actually going to turn that deficit into an advantage? So the best coaches have a game plan, they practice the skills, and then they're able to adjust on the fly. So that's what we're wanting this particular web series to do, is to be able to provide us with a game plan, the ability to practice pro-social behaviors, and how do we adjust and handle the incidents that happen in the middle of class. So what are our 3 strategies? Well, to use those 3 different parts of coaching to build that solid foundation. First, we need a game plan. And that really is 3 of the 4 keys, because a lot of misbehavior can be handled if we are building belonging, developing relationships, and designing engaging instruction. They all chart a course for success for students' behavioral regulation, and you can probably eliminate 80 to 85% of your misbehavior if you build these 3 things: belonging, relationships, and engagement. Those are the 3 of the 4 keys on that original picture, 3 of the 4 legs of that oak table. Now, how do we practice skills? Well, that's going to be that 4th key, discipline, and that's actually broken down into 2 different parts: praise and correction. So how do we practice the skills? We're going to use praise to notice and reinforce the pro-social behaviors, because it gives opportunities to practice and receive attention for the actions that you want to see repeated. What we will learn is that every student wants attention, and it's just an inborn need, and whatever action gets attention gets reinforced, and a lot of times we as teachers are reinforcing the behaviors we don't want to see because we end up fussing at them after they do something wrong. Instead, we help build their capacity to repeat good behaviors, or what we're going to call pro-social behaviors, if we use our attention sparingly and we only pay attention to the behaviors we want to see. We'll get a lot more into that in that episode 4. And then finally, in-game adjustments. So what happens when something goes really bad? Well, we need to cycle through correction options. One of them is praise. We're going to also talk about airing it out and the DRIPS method. Those all come in episode 5. They are in descending order, so it gives teachers the ability to ensure behavioral success. And what we're trying to do is not resort to coercion. We don't want to use power or threats or else statements to try to coerce students into behaving correctly. We want to set them up for success, and we want to do it by developing belonging, relationships, engagement, and then using discipline in a way so that it supports all of these things rather than fighting against it. So, playing to win the classroom management game. If we can do these things, ultimately it restores the joy of teaching. So if you're interested, stick with me on this journey. We've got 5 more web series episodes left, exploring each of these 4 keys in detail. That 4th key, discipline, will be broken up into 2 separate episodes, both praise and correction. If you have any other questions, you want to find more about this particular training that could be brought to your schools, you can check me out at aarondaffern.com or email me at aarondaffern@gmail.com.